Arizona is known for its desert climate, but that is only the surface of a landscape filled with phenomena that seem to defy logic. Anyone arriving in the state quickly learns that the desert is not an empty, silent void. It behaves like a living organism, transforming in unexpected ways. One of the most astonishing facts is that snowfall occasionally occurs in desert regions. In certain years, areas near Tucson are covered in white, creating a surreal scene where towering cacti stand wrapped in snow. The contrast is so striking that even longtime residents marvel at it every time it happens. Another strange phenomenon is the sudden appearance of violent storms. These summer monsoons can create massive walls of dust, known as haboobs. Within seconds, an entire city can be swallowed by a brown, churning curtain of sand. Daylight vanishes, visibility drops to almost zero, and the air fills with debris. The raw power of these storms is enough to shake signs, bend antennas, and transform streets into surreal landscapes. Yet for Arizonans, this chaos is simply part of the seasonal cycle. Perhaps even stranger are the deep humming sounds heard in the desert late at night. Travelers describe a low, vibrating drone that seems to come from nowhere, not the sky, not the ground, but everywhere at once. Some scientists say the sound may result from the desert floor expanding and contracting as temperatures fluctuate drastically. Others suspect atmospheric resonance, and some believe the phenomenon is still unexplained. Then there are the iconic saguaro cacti, which challenge understanding with their bizarre shapes and incredible resilience. Many grow straight and tall, but others twist into unpredictable forms, crooked arms, curled limbs, or branching patterns that resemble human silhouettes. These rare shapes are so unique that botanists travel from around the world to study them. Another extraordinary fact is the brightness of Arizona's night sky. The air is so dry and clear that stars appear sharper and more numerous than in most places. In remote areas, the Milky Way stretches across the sky like a glowing bridge. Visible without telescopes or special equipment, too many visitors, the night sky here feels otherworldly. Arizona constantly reminds us, nothing functions the way we expect. Nothing obeys ordinary logic. And that is exactly what makes the state so captivating. If Arizona's sky astonishes people, its ground presents mysteries. Even more dramatic, one of the most shocking, involves giant cracks that open suddenly in rural areas. Known as earth fissures, these splits can be more than 10 feet deep and stretch hundreds of yards across the landscape. They appear without warning, as if the earth beneath had shifted abruptly. Scientists link them to groundwater depletion, but the speed and scale of their formation continue to puzzle experts. Another baffling feature of the Arizona desert is its moving sands. In specific locations, entire dunes migrate slowly over the years, altering the terrain dramatically. A hiker who returns to the same place a decade later might not recognize it. Geologists believe a unique combination of wind angles drives the sand in odd, shifting patterns. There are also reports of mysterious lights emerging from the ground on extremely hot nights, teeny flashes of blue or yellow drifting above the soil. Some theories suggest natural electrical discharges or mineral reactions. Others believe atmospheric illusions are responsible. But no definitive explanation has been reached. Another phenomenon involves phantom pits, deep circular holes that appear suddenly, remain for months, and then collapse or fill in without trace. Farmers who discover these formations describe smooth interior walls, almost as if the earth had been carved out mechanically. Geologists attempt to link this to soil compaction and underground voids, but not all cases fit existing models. Even more intriguing is the way the desert floor reacts to dramatic temperature changes. At night, sharp popping sounds echo across the land, as if the ground were expanding or contracting like a living lung. Campers often think someone is walking nearby, only to realize it is the brittle soil shifting under thermal stress. For longtime residents, these events are routine. For newcomers, they resemble scenes from a science fiction film. The Arizona desert is not just a landscape, it is an entity in constant motion, producing phenomena that refuse to fit into easy explanations. Every crack, every vibration, every light that flickers across the sand adds another layer to the mystery. Arizona is home to some of the most unusual creatures in the United States, many of which behave in ways that seem to challenge biology itself. One of the most astonishing examples is the annual migration of tarantulas. Every year, hundreds of these large spiders travel across the desert in search of mates. Roads, trails, and open fields transform into moving carpets of slow, deliberate legs. Although harmless, the sight is so surreal that many visitors believe they are witnessing some apocalyptic omen rather than a natural event. Another peculiar animal is the javelina, a boar-like mammal that roams residential neighborhoods as if they were forests. These animals walk in tight groups and cross streets with surprising confidence, The strangest behavior occurs when they gather in perfect circles, rotating around a central point as if performing a ritual that no one has managed to interpret. Biologists suggest temporary disorientation, but the formation is so precise that it raises questions no one has answered. The desert also hosts snake species capable of remaining perfectly motionless for hours while absorbing heat from the ground. Some perform behaviors so coordinated they seem intentional. Certain rattlesnakes can vibrate their tails against sand at a rhythm that mimics the chirp of insects tricking small mammals into approaching. This hunting strategy is so rare and so refined that researchers consider it one of the most advanced deceptive tactics in North American wildlife. Birds, too, behave strangely in Arizona. Corvids and hawks that normally fly in straight paths suddenly shift direction or circle repeatedly when passing over specific geological formations. Some scientists theorize that magnetic fields created by underground minerals alter their navigation, but the consistency of these detours remains unexplained. There are also reports of small mammals disappearing for months, only to return in unexpected places like abandoned mines or deep ravines. These creatures develop unconventional survival patterns researchers struggle to document. Bat colonies, for example, sometimes emerge hours earlier than expected, or fly in freezing temperatures when they should be hibernating. Taken together, these observations reveal a remarkable truth. In Arizona, wildlife does not merely adapt, evolves behaviors that defy standard biological logic. Each migration, each ritual, each nocturnal flight suggests that the desert follows a rhythm of its own, one that science has yet to fully understand. Arizona is a geological wonderland, an open museum carved by time, pressure, and forces that remain partially unknown. One of the most astonishing features is the number of perfectly balanced rocks scattered across the state. These massive boulders sit atop narrow bases, often supported by a single point of contact so small it looks impossible. They have survived storms, earthquakes, winds, and erosion for centuries. Geologists attribute their stability to slow, selective erosion, but their delicate equilibrium still leaves experts baffled. Another mystery lies in Arizona's singing sand. In specific dunes, sliding down the surface or simply letting the wind blow across them produces a deep, resonant hum as if the desert were emitting musical notes. The effect requires the sand grains to be nearly identical in size and moisture level, a rare combination that occurs more frequently in Arizona than anywhere else. The resulting sound is so haunting that ancient cultures believed it was the voice of the earth. Magnetic anomalies add a deeper layer of intrigue. In certain regions, compasses spin aimlessly or point in incorrect directions. Travelers report being led off course, and even digital devices malfunction when approaching these magnetic zones. Scientists have identified minerals responsible for some of the interference, but the erratic intensity of the effect continues to generate questions. Meteor Crater, one of the world's best preserved impact sites, also displays unusual acoustic behavior. Visitors describe their voices, echoing in layers, bouncing in unpredictable patterns that make the crater seem alive. Even light behaves oddly here, scattering across rock walls in ways that distort color and perspective. Another mysterious occurrence involves moving rocks in isolated desert flats. Long trails carved in the soil indicate that the rocks have shifted significant distances, yet no one has witnessed them in motion. Theories suggest thin ice combined with wind, but the precision of the tracks and the speed implied by their formation remain unexplained in several cases. And towering above all is the Grand Canyon, a geological masterpiece that feels almost supernatural in scale. Its layers reveal the history of oceans, deserts, and forests that existed long before humans walked the earth. The depth and complexity of the formation are so extraordinary that many visitors feel they are looking not at a canyon, but at the exposed memory of the planet. Arizona's geology does not merely preserve history, it challenges perception. Every canyon, dune, rock, and crater seems to whisper that the earth is far more dynamic and far more mysterious than we imagine. Arizona's sky is a spectacle unlike any other, filled with atmospheric events so unusual that many seem borrowed from science fiction. One of the most famous is the appearance of mysterious lights moving in coordinated formations. These lights glide silently along the horizon, sometimes forming perfect geometric lines before vanishing without explanation. While some attribute them to military flights, many sightings occur far from any base, leaving locals puzzled and fueling decades of speculation. Another breathtaking phenomena is the formation of giant solar halos. On days of extreme heat, ice crystals high in the atmosphere refract sunlight, creating massive glowing rings around the sun. Often, these halos come with sundogs, bright spots that appear like small duplicate suns. To first-time visitors, the sky looks supernatural, yet for Arizonans, it is simply another quirk of their environment. Lightning storms bring their own brand of strangeness. In certain regions, lightning strikes repeatedly in the exact same location for several minutes, illuminating the desert like a strobe light. Meteorologists suspect that specific rock formations influence electrical discharge, but the consistency of these repeated strikes remains difficult to explain. At night, the desert reveals even stranger sights. Rare red sprites, massive electrical discharges that occur high above thunderstorms, flash silently across the upper atmosphere. Pilots describe these flashes as inverted lightning bolts, glowing crimson and stretching for miles. The suddenness and scale of sprites make them one of the least understood atmospheric events visible from Earth. Arizona is also known for its vivid green flash, a momentary emerald-colored burst that appears at the horizon as the sun sets. Though scientifically linked to light refraction, the phenomenon is unusually intense in Arizona, leading many to question whether they truly saw what they think they saw. Winds in the state behave unpredictably as well. In some areas, hot desert winds suddenly shift to cold gusts at sunset, as if two layers of atmosphere were colliding. These temperature clashes create sudden dust spirals that twist and dance across the landscape. For hikers and desert campers, it can feel as if the air around them has a personality of its own. In Arizona, the sky is not simply a backdrop, it is a living stage where light, heat, and energy perform daily. And every flash, halo, and silent formation reminds us that the atmosphere above the desert obeys laws we do not fully understand. Beyond natural wonders, Arizona hosts man-made structures that seem to operate under their own mysterious rules. One of the most remarkable examples is Biosphere 2, an enormous sealed research facility designed to replicate entire ecosystems. Despite its controlled environment, the internal climate often behaves in unpredictable ways. Plants grow faster than projected, humidity spikes without cause, and microclimates develop inside the structure that even researchers struggle to manage. The project reveals how even a meticulously planned environment becomes unpredictable when placed under Arizona's extreme conditions. Another curious phenomenon involves bridges and overpasses that produce strange harmonic sounds at dusk. As metal expands and contracts under drastic temperature changes, the structures emit long, vibrating tones that resemble musical strings being plucked. Engineers attribute this to thermal dilation, yet the rhythmic, almost intentional quality of the sound continues to unsettle drivers who hear it for the first time. Arizona's modern glass buildings create another unexpected effect. Concentrated sun reflections that generate pockets of extreme heat on sidewalks and surrounding areas. People report walking briefly through these reflections and feeling temperatures spike dramatically, sometimes enough to burn exposed skin. Though architects understand the cause, the intensity of these heat beams often exceeds expectations. Underground tunnels beneath several cities add another layer of mystery. Some serve functional purposes, but many older tunnels emit faint metallic echoes and vibrations, even when unused. Workers have reported hearing distant clangs or feeling subtle tremors with no identifiable source, prompting theories of shifting bedrock, hidden machinery, or natural resonance amplified by the desert floor. Sundials scattered across the state provide another puzzle. Identical designs placed in different areas sometimes show time discrepancies of several minutes. Despite receiving equal sunlight, astronomers suggest minor tilts in placement could explain the variation. But the inconsistency between seemingly perfect installations challenges this assumption. Even residential homes behave strangely under heat extremes. During hot summer nights, walls pop, roofs groan, and floors shift as materials expand. The intensity of these sounds can lead newcomers to believe someone is inside the house. Longtime residents shrug them off as part of the desert's nightly routine. In Arizona, human structures do not simply stand in the environment. They interact with it. They bend, resonate, expand, echo, and respond to an invisible set of desert rules. And in doing so, they become participants in the state's ongoing mystery. Arizona is one of the states where advanced technologies are tested far from the public eye. What makes this even more intriguing is how these experiments often produce phenomena that confuse both residents and experts. One such case involves radio signals that appear suddenly, last only a few seconds, and disappear without trace. Amateur astronomers and radio operators frequently pick up these pulses, which do not match any commercial, civilian, or known military frequency. Some of these bursts repeat in patterns that seem intentionally structured, yet no agency has claimed responsibility for them. Another striking phenomenon concerns the silent drones spotted in remote areas. Locals report seeing small aerial objects moving at unusual speeds, performing sharp turns, or hovering motionlessly in the sky. Arizona does host several military bases, but many sightings occur far from any restricted zone. These unexplained flights continue to fuel theories about classified testing, atmospheric illusions, or technologies not yet revealed to the public. Environmental sensors often behave unpredictably in the desert as well. Devices meant to measure temperature or soil stability sometimes trigger vibration alerts with no visible cause. Experts suggest that thermal expansion may be responsible. But the frequency and intensity of these signals imply that the sensors might be detecting something happening below the surface, something not yet fully studied. In certain stretches of road, digital compasses malfunction without warning. Drivers report their navigation systems spinning wildly or pointing in the wrong direction. Research suggests the presence of magnetic minerals in the ground. But the irregularity of the interference makes the phenomenon difficult to map or predict. Arizona is also home to powerful observatories that detect unusual bursts of light from deep space. These flashes appear without warning, last a fraction of a second, and never repeat. Astronomers classify them as transient cosmic events, but their origin remains a mystery. Some consider them natural, others suspect artificial sources. There are also regions where GPS signals distort dramatically. Travelers find themselves misplaced on the map by miles, as if the coordinates had shifted. Mountains and rock formations may be blocking the signal, but the patterns of disruption do not follow any consistent logic. In Arizona, technology does not simply operate, it reacts. It picks up whispers from the desert, from the atmosphere, and perhaps from the earth itself. Machines measure more than they are designed to, while the environment answers with anomalies. Here, the boundary between science and mystery becomes thinner than anywhere else. Arizona's extreme environment shapes its residents in ways that are difficult for outsiders to understand. One of the most striking behaviors is how casually people drive long distances. A 2 or 3 hour trip considered exhausting in many states is viewed as a quick outing in Arizona. The sheer scale of the desert redefines the concept of distance, making long drives feel routine. Another unique behavior involves how residents handle the heat. When temperatures pass 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, locals employ strategies that seem almost ritualistic. Keeping wet towels inside cars, covering steering wheels, using special cloths to open metal doors, and avoiding touching playground equipment altogether. The strangest part is that many Arizonans claim they feel cold when the temperature drops into the 70s, around 25 degrees Celsius. Something nearly unthinkable for visitors. Water storage is another ingrained habit. Because breaking down in the desert can quickly turn dangerous, most people keep emergency supplies in their vehicles: water bottles, snacks, flashlights, hats, and thermal blankets. It's not paranoia, it's survival culture. In some neighborhoods, residents leave bowls of water outside their homes during summer so wildlife can endure the brutal heat. As a result, javelinas, coyotes, and even bobcats roam through suburban streets comfortably, almost as if they shared the city with humans. Another behavior found only in Arizona is the pursuit of absolute silence. In rural areas and desert trails, silence is treated as a form of meditation. People hike for miles not just to see landscapes, but to hear nothing. The desert's deep quiet becomes a kind of sanctuary, a rare commodity in the modern world. There are also the seasonal desert communities, groups of travelers who camp deep in remote areas for months, then disappear, only to return the following year. These nomadic groups create temporary neighborhoods where people live guided by the shifting seasons and the pull of the open desert. Life in Arizona requires adaptation, resilience, and intuition. The environment reshapes perspectives, habits, and even identities. What seems strange elsewhere becomes normal here, and what seems impossible elsewhere becomes everyday life. Arizona contains locations that behave so strangely they have become the subject of endless rumors, studies, and folklore. One of the most famous is the Gravity Hill slopes, where cars appear to roll uphill on their own when placed in neutral. Scientists argue it's an optical illusion created by uneven horizons, but many visitors swear the sensation feels real, as if the vehicle is being pulled by an invisible force. Another perplexing sight is the vortex zones of hikers report feelings of dizziness, bursts of clarity, or sudden emotional shifts when standing on certain rock formations. Compasses spin unpredictably, and even animals behave differently near these areas. While some attribute this to magnetic anomalies, others believe the rocks amplify energy fields in ways modern science has yet to classify. There are also ghost towns where residents vanished nearly overnight, leaving furniture, tools, and belongings behind as if fleeing in haste. The silence in these towns is unnervingly deep. Travelers often describe an overwhelming sensation of being watched, even when completely alone. In some remote regions, sounds travel in impossible ways. A whisper can echo across canyons with perfect clarity, while loud shouts vanish into the air without returning. Acoustic engineers proposed explanations involving air density and rock angles. but the unpredictability of the effects continues to confound experts. One of the most bizarre locations is a stretch of desert where footprints and tracks remain preserved for months 7 through windstorms. The soil compacts in a peculiar way, almost like soft cement, allowing imprints to survive long after they logically should have disappeared. Similar phenomena exist elsewhere, but nowhere with the consistency observed in Arizona. The abandoned mining shafts scattered across the state hold their own mysteries. Explorers report hearing rhythmic knocks deep underground, long after mining operations ceased. The sounds may come from shifting rock, but their repetitive patterns suggest movement with a purpose, something no one has been able to prove or disprove. Even lakes and reservoirs behave strangely. Waves sometimes form on completely still days, rippling against the shore with no wind or boat in sight. Locals say these phantom waves are caused by pressure shifts under the water, though the timing of these events rarely follows predictable patterns. Arizona's landscapes challenge perception, logic, and the boundaries of what we consider possible. The more we observe, the clearer it becomes. Some places here simply operate under rules of their own. Arizona is often portrayed as a land of heat and desert, but beneath that simple image lies a state overflowing with enigmas. Its geography alone is enough to spark wonder. Deep canyons that reveal millions of years of Earth's memory. Mountains that rise from flat plains without warning. Deserts that bloom overnight after a single rainstorm. The land shifts, cracks, echoes, hums, and transforms at a pace that defies expectation. Its wildlife behaves in ways scientists are still trying to understand. Animals migrate in unconventional patterns. Birds navigate in strange loops. And desert creatures develop surprising survival mechanisms. Each adaptation seems tailored not just to endure the environment but to participate in its mystery. Technology, too, becomes unreliable in Arizona. Signals distort, compasses falter, drones appear without explanation, and sensors detect vibrations that no one can trace. Machines that function flawlessly elsewhere suddenly struggle here, as if the desert were rewriting the rules of physics. Human behavior adapts as well. Life in Arizona reshapes perceptions of distance, silence, heat, and risk. Communities learn to survive with methods that would seem extreme in other states, but here, they make perfect sense. Then, there are the landscapes themselves. Vortexes, abandoned tunnels, sound pockets, magnetic anomalies, and ghost towns that look frozen in time. Each region holds a piece of the unknown, an unanswered question. Arizona contains beauty, danger, quiet, chaos, and mystery woven together in a way that feels almost intentional. It does not merely host strange phenomena, attracts them, amplifies them, and preserves them. And for every fact we uncover about the state, at least 2 more appear to contradict it. That is why Arizona remains one of the most mysterious places in America. It reminds us that our world is far more complex than we imagine. And no matter how much we explore, measure, or analyze, there will always be something hidden beneath the desert floor or painted across the desert sky waiting to be discovered.